They used to say that the hachana for the mitzvah is more important than the mitzvah itself. And people like to get uptight about things. They go, chas v'chalila, how can you say the hachana is emotional self-indulgence and the mitzvah is a mitzvah device, it's the Ratzon Hashem? But of course that's not what they meant. They meant the hachana of the mitzvah makes the mitzvah, is mashling the mitzvah. If you have a Pesach Seder and you just kind of stumble into it, if you have a Zman Chevet Seinu and you're so busy with so many different avodas, and sometimes the avodah is just cleaning, and then you stumble into it, then you can miss the whole day, the whole experience, the whole opportunity. And during Zman Chevet Seinu, as it fast approaches us, it's a time of the year that you can do, I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times before, you can do in 24 hours what it would usually take a whole year. And this is not just stuff that the Svarim say, this is stuff that people experience, this stuff I've personally experienced. There's things that you work for many years and you find those blocks, those fears, those pains, that anger, that sadness, that bitterness from challenges we've had in our life, from issues in our family, from issues in our chinuch, from issues in Amunah and mamish. It's possible, I'm telling you, it's reality. I used to say it as a drash, and I was zocheh to say it as reality. It can happen in one night if your head is in the right place and the heart is in the right place. And then the opportunities on the night are l'mala min hateva. L'mala min hateva mamish. It's a time when we get a emunah for the whole of the year. It's a time when we get cheves from all the things externally in our life, the actual logistical issues, the financial issues, the shidduch issues, all the things that are trapping us, that are containing us, that are frustrating us. But on a deeper level, it's cheves from all the clippers, all the yetzaharas, all those blocks, all those issues, all those things we get stuck in that we can never get out of. And it's opportunity on this one night to matak, and that is an opportunity for taivas achila, with the one mitzvah we have from eating the matzah is a mitzvah device, and we have the opportunity on that night through the eating itself with kedusha and tahara. When we eat in the right intent, we can transform our capacity to eat on a taivas achila for the whole of the year. It's a time that we can feel clear in our emunah that there's a Hashem in the world. It's a reality. It's not just a Devar Torah. It's a real thing that Hashem is real to us, and it's a time that we can know that, and especially in the tzavas that we all go through, and especially in the tzavas of the community. I spent about 15 minutes now in Toronto, and I see that there's real Torah here, there's real chizuk here. I also see that tzavas here as well. I was hoping I would go one place in the world and people wouldn't have issues. People have issues here. Possibly people in the room have issues here. It's possible that what you can do in one night is something you can't do in the whole of the year. So what we need to do is prepare. We need to prepare for Chayrus. We need to prepare for Geula. So how do you prepare? So there's a long discussion about what Hachana really looks like by the Tzaddikim, by the Oivdim. The Klal Gadol in Avoda. The secret of how it really, really works is you have to make yourself into a kli that matches that what you want to receive. If someone were to throw you a ball, I know you're nice from girls and you don't catch balls, you don't throw balls. I don't know if that's Asa somewhere, perhaps it's Mishnah Berurah, I don't know. You guys know what a ball is? Or something for guys? I don't know what happens in Toronto. Maybe it'll be bad on your shidduch record, something she wants called a bull. I'm not sure she's feminine enough or tznius enough, I don't know. But let's just say if someone throws you a ball. So if someone throws you a ball right now, you catch it. How would you catch it? Here comes a ball. What would you, show me what you do with your hand when you catch a ball. There's one girl in the room. Right. Well, that's not, I remember. Fine. So what's your name?
Me?
Yes. Are you emotionally comfortable pretending you're catching a ball? That's not a show me the gear.
Just like this morning.
There's a show in the commandment, miming something that you show me the gear. Are we pretending to? See, ready? See, I throw it? Good. So see what you do with that. Wow, bum, the whole. That's right. You invested yourself in that. Kol hakavod to you. So you see her hand went up like this. So that's a deep thing. So this is what I'm saying. That's a deep thing. Why? Because if you want to receive something, your hand has to mold into the shape of that what you want to receive. You see that? So if you want to achieve Chayrus, if you want to experience Chayrus, you have to begin. We have a few weeks now, a couple weeks, to enter into a state of Chayrus. And Chayrus has certain properties. You have to look at where you have avdus in your life. Not avdus to Kadosh Baruch Hu, but avdus to everything but. And you have to say, where do I have Chayrus? So tonight I want to give us one avoda in the area of Chayrus. One avoda where we have to turn our kli, our lave, into a place which can be makabel Chayrus, freedom. And there's an area where we have a particular Yetzin Hara which we mamish serve with all the heart, Hashem Yiracham. And it's something called sinna. It's something called anger. It's in our relationships between other people. And the Maharal says, it's a very deep word. I'm just saying this al derech hachana to what I want to teach you tonight. Maharal says that Geula has certain properties. Redemption, Chavis has certain properties, and enslavement has certain properties. And one of the rules to know if Klal Yisrael is in the state of Chavis, of Geula, is there's a sense of achdus, unity. And you see, we saw that in Purim. We all know that when Haman came to convince Achashverosh that I'm going to take apart the Yidden, so he said, "An am mefuzah mefared." They're a divided and fragmented people. And because we were divided and fragmented, we were vulnerable to being punished. We were vulnerable to being hurt. It's interesting when Moshe and Aaron go to Paro and say, "Let my Yidden go," as they say. Then Paro turns around and says, "Heim Rabin Ata." They are many now, but Rabin means also fragmented. There's a lot of them. They're divided. They're being torn apart. When the Jewish people are in a state of fragmentation, of division within us, we become vulnerable to the enemy. And there's an idea that one of the voters of Pesach, I'm going to talk about this in a deeper level tonight, is a voter of achdus. There's a famous question. When you see what happened as a result, Hashem came out of the sky with miracles and wonders, and He took the Yidden out of Mitzrayim. And it's the most miraculous thing that ever happened in history. Not that you know such things. There's a thing called Hollywood, and these Hollywood movies have special effects. And the special effects are moiridic. It's just like you see things happen that could never happen in the world. Lahavdil, but Yetzias Mitzrayim was one big, massive Hollywood special effects show, but in real life, in 3D. And the Yidden saw things they'd never seen. But all you read after you see it's Mitzrayim is chapters and chapters of the Yidden complaining about things. You ever notice about that? They complain about the food, they complain about the drink, and they say very chutzpahdik things like, Hashem, if only we were back in Mitzrayim, we would have had enough tuna to eat, enough leeks to eat. Cans of tuna, sounds like what I've been eating for the last 2 weeks on the road here. You don't have to be in Mitzrayim to do that. So, it's very interesting. If Hashem would say to me, look, if He would have asked me, not that Hashem would ask me in such things, He doesn't usually consult me in these big decisions in the world. But if Hashem would say to me, I'm thinking of taking out these people, but everything they're doing, they're complaining the whole time. Daniel Katz, what adracha would you like to give me? I know it's a big leap of faith to think He'd ask me. I'm sure He'd come to Rabbi Moshe first, someone with more insight. But I think this is what I'd say to him. I'd say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with all due respect, you can do this the easy way or the hard way. I mean, let's be honest, there's a few tzaddikim, there's a few gedolim in every generation. The rest of us, nebuch, we have good days, we have bad days, we have other bad days, occasionally another good day, and we go through problems. Hashem, do you want to do this easy way or the hard way? Listen, let me give you some answer, Hashem. Take out Moshe, take out Aaron, take out Miriam. Take out a few Yechidim, a few Oivdim, and the rest of them nebuch. Hashem took out, He left, 4/5 the Jews left in the plague of darkness, right? And the rest of them, why didn't He just remove the tzaddikim? Why did He remove the Yechidim? Why did He take out everybody? Hashem knows the future, You've heard that kind of Torah before? Hashem knows they're going to whinge and complain. They're going to come into Eretz Israel, and you're going to come into Eretz Israel, and you're going to serve idols. Out of all they've been through, Matan Torah, the day after Matan Torah, look, this golden calf looks interesting. Why don't we worship that now? Can you imagine that? Hashem, what were you thinking? And the answer is, what Hashem was thinking is something we have to understand, because the definition of freedom is Hashem doesn't want individuals. Hashem doesn't want, as they say in the secular world, just the cool people. Hashem wants a nation. Hashem wants an am. Hashem wants every single one of us. The strong ones, whoever they are, and the weak ones, whoever they are. And Hashem took us out because He needs every single one of us to be together. Because every single Jew working together is a property of Chavis. It's a property of bracha. When Am Yisrael work together, when every single Yid is included and no Yid is excluded, then there's something that Hashem knows that He can bring into the world that is impossible without that. When we're in a state of pizur and pirut, when we're in a state of divisiveness, Hashem knows that His Shekhinah is mistalik from the world. As the Midrash says in B'midbar Rabbah, Gadol Shalom she'en kli makabel bracha el Shalom she'en ne'amah Hashem az la'amah yitain Hashem yivarech hasamah v'shalom. Everyone knows this line, Hashem yivarech hasamah v'shalom, and we all know the line means Hashem will bless us with peace. But the truth is, my friends, it's the Midrash says, no, that's not what it means. It means when we're in a state of peace, then Hashem can bless us. The word peace doesn't just mean not arguing, it means shalom. Shalom means complete. It means every single one of us are together. We're united in head and heart. There's a blessing, Hashem yivarech hasamah v'shalom. Not Hashem will bless us with peace, but when we're in a sense of peace, then we can receive every bracha, every hatzlacha, then we can receive geula. The Ari HaKodesh used to say, there's a certain minhag, I'm sure you know of this minhag. There's a certain minhag that a Yid is supposed to look around the shul when they daven. When they're davening the Shemona Ezra and they're in a minyan, they're supposed to look around the shul. It's a very beautiful minhag. And you're supposed to look at every person in the room and maybe kabel that you love that Yid. You're supposed to go around every single Jew because there's what the Tzivah Shalom calls a chitzonius of a minyan and a panemius of a minyan. A chitzonius of a minyan is we're all in the same room davening together. But a panemius of a minyan is we are bonded together in head and heart. Isn't that a beautiful idea? Then we daven together, we say Tehillim together, we look around the room at every individual. There's a Yid I know, a Heilige Yid, a tzaddik in Yerushalayim called Srimed Zilberberg. I don't know if you've heard of him. And when you daven with him, he davens from the Amud, and as he goes to daven the Shemona Ezra, he stops and he looks around the room. Everyone steps 3 steps back and forward, and you pretend to daven if you want to see what he does. That's what I do. I pretend. My hands moving in the air. It's very convincing. My sit is upside down because I haven't really started yet. And you look at him, and he stops, right? He goes to daven, and he looks around and he looks at every single Yid, and he looks in the eyes and goes, every single Yid. Because he's makusha with the achdus in the room. And I'm telling you, I can only say this from experience, you feel that there's a bracha, you feel the hashras hashchina at that moment, because when Yidden are united together, there's a kli. When Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, as the Ramban said, that it's a whole sugya to go into, but the concept of Pesach, he says, we all know that, there's a Yontif and there's a Chol Hamoed and the end of the Yontif. So the Ramban, we know, says that really it's a 50-day Yontif. The whole thing from Yetzias Mitzrayim to Matan Torah is really one Yontif, and the Sfiras HaOmer is the Chol Hamoed in between. And what's happening is, Klal Yisrael arrived at Matan Torah, Be'ish Achad B'Leiv Achad. When we were united as one entity together, one being together, then we could receive the bracha. So one of the avodas of preparation, and you're going to see something very, very deep tonight. This is just al derech hachana, but I want to show you something very moiridik. So one of the preparations we can do to leave Mitzvahim in our own lives is join together to send a sense of achdus and unity, because that's how the bracha and that's how the geula will come. So I want to talk tonight a little about the avoda of loving Jews, a little about the avoda of achdus. Now I know there's no subject which is more redundant in all of the world than Ahavas Yisrael and Jewish unity. How many people think Ahavas Yisrael and Jewish unity is a good idea, a good thing to happen? Let's see your hands. Great, so we've basically finished, Rabbi, there's nothing left we can teach, everybody's already into this, so get ready. So I think it's a very nice thing, we're all into this kind of stuff, we all like stickers that say something about Jewish unity, we put them on our cars, and nice Devar Torah about unity, we can stand up and say Devar Torah, and everyone goes, kol hakavod to you, because we all this is very nice, but the truth is that there's no probably mitzvah that has more cognitive dissonance. Do you know what that means? A very sophisticated word. Probably didn't learn that word in Beis Yaakov. Anyone heard that term before? Cognitive dissonance? It has a lot of syllables, I understand. Anyone knows what it actually means? Yes. Who said yes? So somebody at the back. Anyone give a touch? It's the first time anyone said, can you give a touch in cognitive dissonance? How would you explain that word? Everyone's chatting amongst themselves. What did he say? Is that Aramaic? What did he say? Anyone know what it means?
Difference between thinking and knowing?
The difference between thinking and knowing? Okay, it's close. No cigar. Someone over here, ma'am.
That you believe something, but you do something that's opposite.
That's kind of like the way you'd say it. As Yisrael Salanter would say, the longest distance in the world between 2 points is between what you know to be true but what you actually do. If you know what I mean. Cognitive dissonance means there's no subject in the world of Ahavas Yisrael and Achdus and Klal Yisrael between what we know we should do and we all swoon when we hear those stories about Achdus, what we actually do all the time, just walking down the street, how we see people, how we think about people. It could be our friends, it could be our family, it could be our rabbis, it could be anyone in the Kehillah. That we know what we should do, but in our heads and hearts we're totally thinking about the other thing. There's everybody in Klal Yisrael, Nebuch, Hashem Yerachim. There's so many tainas, about the hats that you wear. We have so many excuses to not like each other. Right now, I'm already off to death because I have an up hat. Right? It depends on who your rabbis, your Ebbetsons are. Unless they had an up hat, then I'm already accepted by you. But if they had a down hat, then for sure I'm going in the wrong direction. For sure, up hats are holy because we're reaching up to Shemayim, but the down hats are going on down to the physical world. Unless you wear a down hat, and the down hat is because a Yid is you read it Tzarech Aliyah, right? There's Perish. But all the black hats, Baruch Hashem, we can agree that at least we're kind of like with Litvish Hanach hat. We don't have the furry hats like that Yid in the other room. Never, they're kind of out of the for wearing that. But as long as we're all Litvaks together, and Chassidim, Chas v'chil, are actually Svardim, right? But the Svardim and the Chassidim and the Litvaks, we all agree we don't like the Chabadniks, unless of course you're Chabad, right? Everyone doesn't like Chabad, but Chabad like us. Okay, that's good. As long as we like the Rebbe, they like us. But at the end of the day, we don't like them. And then Baruch Hashem, Chesed Hashem. As long as you're from like me, you see, I have this thing around the bottom of my kippah. You see one of them. You should definitely marry a guy like that. Because if he doesn't have that, he's not a Yer Shemayim. Everybody knows that. Doesn't matter if he's finished all of Shas. But as long as it doesn't matter if you have this, you don't have this, you have the up hat and the down and the furry hat. At least you don't have Chas v'chil or white kippah. Because then you're barely a Yid. But if you have a kippah on your head, that's better than people that don't have kippahs on their head, right? As long as they don't fight in the army. But if you fight in the army, as long as you're religious in the army, and you're not the secular people, they're for sure bad. But the secular people, at least they're not goyim. So at least we have levels of degrees of who we like, but it's often more degrees of who we hate. And you can be a from Yiras Shemayim, right, as long as you earn my derech halimud, which is of course be'in. And if you have the up hat and the right kippah and the whole thing, chas v'chalila, you learn b'kiyas. Then there's no hope for your soul, right? Unless you learn b'kiyas, but then as long as you don't learn chassidus, then for sure you're off the derech. So what we end up doing is, right, of course you have skirts on, that's very fun, and I hope you have bulletproof stockings. If you don't have bulletproof stockings, right, you'll never find a shidduch. If you have bulletproof stockings, so do you understand? Like I'm joking. You were looking at me. Is he joking? There's no end to the narishkeit. There's no end to it. And even though we laugh at the silliness, it's there sometimes. And for sure, in the shidduch, then it really matters. There's no end to the reasons that we have to dismiss other Jews. There's no end to the differences that comes up between us. In any seminary, in every shiv, in every kehillah, there's always the ones that we like and the ones that we don't like. Even this room right now, I'm sure you have girls that you like and girls that you don't like. Just to prove the point, everyone put up your hands for a second. On the count of three, I want you to point to the person you don't like. 1, 2. Why do the hands go down? What happened? But you can probably do it. Point to yourself. That's a problem. We have a professional outside waiting to help you with that. It's good to know it. It's good to know it. It's a problem. It's mamash a problem. It's mamash a problem because we walk with sinna in our hearts. So tonight I don't want to focus on what we should do. The Sikhan and Avodas Hashem, it's a long sugya to discuss this, is not to focus on what you should do, it's to focus on why you don't do it. Because if you focus on what you should do the whole time, like I'm just such an idiot, I'm such a failure. If we ask the question, we know, everyone knows, that the mitzvah is to love Yidden. But the reality is, we don't love Yidden. What gets in our way, and everyone knows the word, is something called sinas chinam. Sinas chinam destroyed the base of Mikdash. That's exactly the same idea. When you don't have a kli all Yidden loving, you don't have a kli, and the bracha cannot be received in the world. Sinas chinam is the biggest cause of all the destruction of the world. The reason Mashiach is in here right now. That means the sinah in your heart. Now let's examine this word very carefully. What is the definition of sinas chinam? How do you type sinas chinam? How do you translate that? Baseless hatred. So I have to tell you a big chiddush. I have no idea what Chazal were talking about when they said baseless hatred. I've been around the world. I have a lot of people each week, a lot of people each month. I meet people constantly. And people have problems and people have issues, but I've never once met a person that hates someone for no reason. Every time you hate a person, you've always got 25,000 reasons of what they hate. You know what they did to me when I was 7, what they were 8, what they were 9. You know what they did to me then. You know what they did to me. You know what they wear. You know what they look like. You know what they say. You know how they act. Everyone has thousands of reasons why they hate other people. What does it mean, sinas chinam? Anybody? Is anyone you hate for no reason? You see, it misses the whole point, because actually when you don't like somebody, it's the chicken or the egg. People think that they don't, you have to think about this in your own head and heart. People think that they don't like somebody because all the bad things that person did. But if you understand how psychology works, how quick as an average works, it's usually first we don't like them and then we generate the reasons. Sinus chidam doesn't mean you hate someone for no reason. Sinus chidam means, are you ready, that the reason you think is a reason is not a reason. You get that? That's obvious, right? Unfortunately, the nature of the Yetzer Hara is we make it a mitzvah deraisa to not like somebody. That's how the Yetzer Hara works. First I feel hate or anger or bitterness or pain, and it causes me to start generating negativity about that person. And I rationalize that anger, I rationalize that hate, I rationalize that fear. What does rationalizing mean? I tell rational lies to myself until I buy into that delusion. Now again, you can hate a person's actions, and if a person does something not nice to you, you have a mitzvah to stay out of the way. But to carry hate in your heart about that, that's the issue. Sinus chinam means when you have reasons to hate that person, those reasons, no, I have to tell you, it's a mitzvah. No. Those reasons themselves are not reasons. That's the baseless part of baseless hatred. It's a rationalization, it's a rational lies you told yourself. So tonight, what I really want to do with you, right now, tonight, I want to talk about how we can create a kli kibbul, how we can create a sense of achdus, a sense of chayris, freedom within ourselves in Pesach. Freedom from the anger, the frustration, the pain, the bitterness that we all carry towards somebody in the world. And freedom that we don't dismiss other Jews, but we're able to sense a sense of unity with other Jews, because we're all going to get out together. I want to focus not on what we should be doing, but what gets in our way from doing it. And I'm going to show you something very, very deep tonight. I don't know if I'm going to have the words, I don't know if I'm going to have the voice to show this to you. It's a deep secret that the Sfarim discuss. And I'm going to begin by saying the following thing. The Baal Shem Tov says, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that word in this house. You have a package on, I feel more comfortable. The Baal Shem Tov says, when a person has a certain Yetzer Hara, they should recite the pasuk. And by reciting the pasuk of the commandment of to do that or not to do that. If a person has a commandment, issue of sinus chinam, they hate that person, then they should say the pasuk, the commandment of what the positive mitzvah should do. And saying the pasuk, saying the line from the Torah will give them chiyus, will give them energy to turn around the Yetzer Hara. It's a very deep thing. So if we have an issue with sinus chinam, and we all have that somewhere, what is the line that we should say from the Torah that would give us strength to turn that around? What would be the commandment? I have to write a commandment, right? So I'm going to write that on the board. I assume you all, you already know what that looks like. V'ahav ta reicha kamoicha. You guys all seen this before? You got that on the camera? Yeah. And you should love your, how do you type this word? What's that? Your friend. Okay, you should love your friend like yourself. You've all heard that before? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to show you something amazing in here. This has incredible secrets in it. All the secrets of your life and all the secrets of your relationships and all the issues you have with all the people are hidden in this line. I want to show you that this pasuk, how magical it is, that people don't understand the secrets better in this line. You should love your friend like yourself. Is not just a dogmatic commandment from Hashem. But I don't like that person. Shut up and love them. But no, I really don't connect. Shut up and love them. But this bad thing they did to me. Shut up and love them. It's not just a commandment. Hidden, buried within just these three words is also the block that causes us, what actually causes sin in the world. And hidden within that is not just the commandment to do it, not just a brilliant psychological insight that Hashem is teaching us the issue you have. There's also the psychological trick of how to get around all our sin and hatred. And I want to show you that those three elements are all hidden in the pasuk because Hashem has great rahmanas on us. He knows it's hard. He knows it's hard to love and accept people. Because we've been through difficult challenges in life. And He has rahmanas. He wants to show us, when He tells us the commandment, He has rahmanas. He wants to know how you can turn that hate around, that anger around, just that not connection that you have with the Yid around. So I'm going to try and show this to you now. We only have a few minutes to do this. I'm going to go as fast as I can. The secrets about all the relationships in this world, especially about the most challenging and rewarding relationship we'll have in our life, is the relationship of marriage. And marriage is not an easy ride. You know, every girl at your age is just like, all I want to do is get married, all I want to do is get married. So until you get married, and then all you want to do is not get married, Katz for clearly, never say that out loud. It's not a very nice thing to say. It's a challenge, because every day it's a challenge. Don't worry, there's incredible reward, it's incredible beauty, incredible depth. And B'ezrat Hashem, there's incredible connection. People say marriage is hard. Marriage is hard for people who don't like people. If people actually like people, it's the most beautiful thing in the world, but there's hard work there. And the secret to the hard work is buried in these words. The secret to all of your marriages, the happy kamocha. You know, my friend always says, loving your neighbor like yourself, loving your family, your partner is also your reya mahuvim. There's kind of a cheva, kind of a house, where the man's out all day doing chesed in the community. Why? Because but his wife's stuck at home when 10 kids doesn't help her, because that's not like a mitzvah, right? She's just my wife, but we have to go and help the kilil. Your wife, there's a Rav said, your wife is also your reya. Your wife is reya mahuvim. So all the secrets of the essential secret of all of the challenges that come from marriage is also in the V'hafta. This is what I'm going to explain to you right now. I'm going to do my best to explain it. Something very, very deep. Let's begin at the beginning. What does it mean, like yourself? We have to decode this line. The classic question is, what does it mean? But you should love fellow Jews. Why does Hashem not say you should love Jews? You should love Jews everywhere. Why does he say you should love Jews like yourself? Now, for some people, I think, and perhaps this girl over here in the crowd, many people think, oh, that's good, I fulfill that commandment because I don't like Jews, I don't like myself. So I really, you ought to see the mitzvah, have to like a commandment, call it a to you. Well, how does people explain this? What have you heard? What does it mean, like yourself? Is that a hand? That's a yawn. It was both. What?
Find something and then that's similar to you and you like it.
Oh, that's nice. Let's give that a go and see if it works. You have hair, I have hair. No, I still don't like it. What's that?
Something a little deeper might be more helpful.
A little deeper.
Everyone has a piece.
You have longer hair, I have, what's that?
Every piece of Hashem in them.
Every piece of Hashem, that's very deep.
Don't do something.
I'm not into this Hasidic stuff, I just said crazy Hasidim. Get a stammer for the girl in the front row. Yes. Yes?
Don't do something to someone that you wouldn't like done to you.
Don't do something to someone. It's one of those phrases, right? I've heard that before. So it's kind of like that, but in reverse. Someone's going to say over here.
In order to love someone else, you first have to know how to love yourself.
Oh, that's really profound, right? But that's impossible, let's be honest. No one really likes themselves. That's the issue we have to talk about. So let's begin with the Ibn Ezra and the Sfano say. We'll start at the beginning. We'll see something very, very deep if you bear with me. The Sfano says just pshat. Love your friend like yourself means as much as you want good for yourself, want good for somebody else. That's already impossible. And I think what that means, it means just like you wanted to get the good front row seat, and you pushed 3 girls out of the way and knocked them to the floor to get it, right? You can think perhaps they also wanted the front row seat. You're at the Shabbos table, and there's that last piece of kugel there. So you know what you're willing to do? You're willing to knock, the Rebbitzin out of the way and pull the kids to reach across the table and dive to get the kugel with your hands, if you're Hasidic like this girl, right? Depending on your minhag. So, as much as we want good for ourselves, we should, as much as we want good for ourselves, we want good for others. That means it's very, very hard. That means that think how happy you will be on the day that you find the Zivig Amiti. Think how happy you would be. So your best friend announces that they've just found their Zivig. That's hard. Isn't that hard? It's hard because you're so happy and you're so joyful, you're really happy, you really care. There's another part that can't help but going, but I want that. So it's hard to say I want it as much. It's hard. Baruch Hashem, I live in Yerushalayim and I have many friends and many, Talmidim, and you go to a lot of weddings. It's hard to say you're equally as excited about their children's wedding than your own wedding, right? It's a hard avoda. So to do that, we have to create a certain mindset to ourselves. We have to start to be misboinen, and who are these people? This girl gets married. Well, what were her challenges, and what were her struggles, and what were her self-doubts? And look who this person is. It takes a little use of the machshava to enter into another person's reality and consider the depth of their struggles, of their pain, of their joys, of the blessing, of the hashchaka that Hashem has brought, the zivug to them. And that's part of the goal, is as much as you want good for yourself, to learn to want that good for another person. And that's the basic explanation. Rav Dessler says something I'm sure you've heard before. Rav Dessler says it's a trick of consciousness. V'hafta means you love yourself. Rav Dessler says the following line, listen carefully. I'm starting very basic, I'm slowly going deeper until we say something, B'ezrat Hashem, very, very deep. Rav Dessler says the following thing: the one primary love that we all have in the world is self-love. If there's a Kibbutz audience, I would have said Facebook. You don't know what Facebook is, right? Great. I won't tell the person who said that. The one primary love we all have in the world is self-love. We all love ourselves. So Desta says a very interesting psychological trick. He says, leverage your self-love to learn to love other people. How do you do that? He says, give to them. Let's say there's a girl that you know has a certain issue. Let's say she has no money. Let's say she doesn't like the clothes that she wears. Let's say she needs some food, she needs accommodation. But you have a girl, there's always a girl in every place where you hang out, in every kehillah, that you don't quite get along with. And the nature of what we do is when we don't get along with someone, we don't want to sit next to them, we don't want to chat with them, and we start to see reasons why they're different to us. So Rav Desta says a very pasha, again, starting very slowly, a very basic idea. Rav Desta says what we need to do is learn to give and invest. He says give the person a present. Give the person a present. Could you think of something they needed? Think right now, a mental trick to play on yourself, of someone you don't quite connect with. So when you don't quite connect to them, all you think is negative things about nothing at all. What if you entered into their reality and said, who are they and what do they need? You help them with a shidduch, you help them with a job opportunity, you call them over, hey, do you have a place to sit? Why don't you come here? And then you see they feel happy, then you feel they feel more fulfilled, they feel more integrated. And you see the smile on their face and you go, you're thinking, yeah, I created that smile. I helped them have that bias man. I helped them, attain, get that job interview. Then their success becomes a trigger. You feel happy about their success. So Rav Desta says a very partial idea. When you want to build a relationship, because you love yourself, we all know that we all unite and become one with the things that we invest our time in. If you invest in this, Tehillim group, if you invest in this Kehillah, then what happens is any shul, any project you've ever invested in, you start to see that's an extension of myself. If you ever built a kehillah, you built an organization, the more hard work you go, well, that's us, that's us, that's our organization. It becomes from I to us. So the idea is we have a nature of distancing ourselves from those we don't like. Rav Desta says turn the tide around, turn that direction around, and start to consciously choose. Look at the person. I dare you right now to think about someone you don't quite connect with. Besides me, please choose someone else, and give them something. That'd actually be good. Actually give me something. I'll take that. Pretend it's me. And it's a very powerful thing. This is a mechanism you can try. It's a mechanism that actually works sometimes. As Rav Desta says, love flows in the direction of giving. Love flows in the direction of giving. In the direction that you give to, it's a direction you bond with, you build a relationship with, and that you see as an extension of your own identity. What you give yourself to becomes an extension of your own identity. Now we know, it's a famous Devar Torah, everyone's heard many times before, that the essence of love is giving. Because if everyone knows, if you take the word ahava, and you see the root of ahava is the word have. Have in Aramaic, which is a cousin of Lashon Kodesh, have actually means to give. So the root of love itself is giving. How do you know when you love someone? You have a deep desire to give to them. Not loving means, that kind of, guy and girl. How do you know if you're in love? I remember I heard from Tuval Chivas one time, a guy turned to his friend in college. He says, how do you know when you love a girl? And his friend said to him the following line, how do you know when you love a girl? It's like, you ever have a girl in your life, he said, and when you're around her, you feel like funny, and you feel intelligent, and you feel like the best of who you are. Do you know what I mean? You have someone like that, you feel like just on top of your game, and charming, and witty. He said, that's love. Isn't that the stupidest piece of advice you've ever heard? You don't love that person, you love yourself, right? I feel witty, I feel charming, I feel intelligent, you don't even see the other person. It's kind of like saying, what do you love? You say, I love fish. I love fish with a little kind of white wine, a little kind of, what's it called, a squeeze of lemon. You don't love fish. You love the taste of the fish on your taste buds. Love is giving. Love is when you want to nurture another, care for another. If you love fish, you wouldn't take the fish for a walk on a moonlit beach. You would take it to a hotel lobby, I don't know where you go in Toronto, and you might chat to it and whisper sweet nothings in its ear. I don't know what you would do with that fish. But you love the taste, the pleasure it gives you. But true love is giving. True love is love flows in the direction of giving. The more you invest in, the more you invest in yourself, the more you see yourself in this person. I actually think it's very interesting. Hashem played a practical joke on us, because have in Aramaic actually means to give. You guys know that, right? But have in English means what you take. So I think this is a very, I'm going to drash on English now if you guys can handle that emotionally. I really think that that's a very deep thought about the difference between a secular mentality and a religious mentality. Because in the Torah world, what you have is what you give. And you know, there was a guy that I know that he had a startup, had this business company. He was a brother of my friend in Yeshiva, my friend Noam. And this guy had a business startup, and he sold it to Google, this big corporation, and he made like tens of millions of dollars. You imagine this young Jewish guy, nice guy, starts a little business, and she's nodding, right? She obviously knows what that's like. You've done this, sold something to Google? Right, okay. Can I get a cut of that, please? And he said like tens of millions of dollars. So like suddenly he went from like being like this guy to this multi-millionaire, true story, and then the stock market crashed. As he said that the bottom fell out of the market. You know, that's how technical people, the bottom fell out of the market. So I just imagine all the oranges and pears going all over the place, the bottom fell out, it's a mess. But people actually have money, I wouldn't know such a thing. That they actually, the bottom fell out, and he in 48 hours lost like 98% of his money. Tens of millions of dollars. So his brother, my friend, told me he was on the floor in a comatose state and couldn't move for 2 days. He couldn't move. And I spoke to him like 6 months later, and he was still in shock. He was like devastated. Like it was like a traumatic experience for him. And he said the following thing to me. I think it was really profound. He said, "You know what? Finally, I appreciate the value of my money." This is what he said to me. He said, this guy's not even from. His brother's from. He said, finally, I said, what's the value of my money? He said, I realized, you know, this guy came to me a few weeks before the market crashed, and he asked for some money. I didn't want to give him money. You know, these crazy Koreans asking for money all the time. And I realized, you know, it's been good for my brother, so I gave him a bit of money. I gave a bit of my money. He said, when the stock market crashed, I lost everything. He said, all the money that I had, I lost. He said, the money that I gave, he said, that's a mitzvah that I still have. Do you hear that idea? Sometimes in this world, what you try and hold on to is what you lose, but what you give away is what you really, really get and keep. And I kind of think that's the lesson that I'm joshing on English now, that have means to give. Because what you give is what you really have. You have that mitzvah mice forever, but what you try and take hold on to, you lose everything. So if Dessler says love flows in the direction of giving, I think that that's a Pashut idea. And I think if we could add one step more to that, if you give to a person, you eventually see that person as an extension of yourself. And their joy and their blessing and their hetzlacha becomes your joy and your blessing and your hetzlacha. But I think there's something else, and I'm going to say this very, very fast, because there's something much deeper we have to get to. We have to set up a few foundations first before we can say something very deep. But I want to say one thing. The things that most destroy marriage, if anything, is selfishness. Is ego, is gaiva, is I need you to be something that you're not. I need you to act in this way, perform in this way, to live in this way. I'm not talking about reasonable needs. Women have a certain disease that they do, which is they're mevatel all their needs for the sake of the guy. Because women are afraid of being loved, not being loved, and afraid of being abandoned. That's another discussion. I'm talking about the selfish needs, not the reasonable needs. And we go into marriage, it's very, very interesting. We go into marriage basically saying, the average person, I need this and I want this and you have to be like that and you have to act like that and you have to dress like that and you have to learn like that and you have to work like that and I need you to look like this and I need the house to be like this and I need you to speak to me like this. And we go in there in such a selfish way that the saddest thing in the world is, why do people want love? It's a very, very deep idea, but one of the things that love allows us to do, it's kind of ironic. Love is something that frees us from ourselves. Do you ever walk down the street and feel stuck within yourself? There's always the same noises in your head, always the same fears in your head, always the same challenges yourself. And love is the capacity to finally leave yourself behind, to become something more than just you, to become something more than just the sum of your parts, to become united and bonded and connected with somebody else. So we actually go into a relationship to transcend ourselves. Do you get that a little? To be united with somebody else and not be stuck with myself. The irony is that the more of the selfishness we have, the more we actually cut ourselves off from that person. But when I can get over myself, one of the most beautiful definitions I heard of love is to see somebody else before you see yourself. To see the needs of the other before you see your own needs. To a limit and with a healthy boundary is what I mean. So I think there's a beautiful irony that if a person lives to give, when a person gets their ego out of the way and learns to give, then they can unite and bond with the other person. And that's why we know the numerical value of ahava is numerical value. Anyone know? 13, which is numerical value for echad. So it's a very beautiful idea that love, have, giving, the root of giving is the root of unity. When a person gets beyond themselves, their fears and their doubts and their ego and their desire, then they begin to see another person beyond themselves. At that point they can begin to unite with that person, become more than themselves. But the more, especially man, the truth is this, there's a man's issue more than a woman's issue. A woman has the humility often to enter into marriage and from a giving place. But especially for man, the more he wants his needs and he demands of the woman to be something, the more he's enforcing his yeshus, his self. But the more he sees the other before himself, the more he gives and the more he creates unity. Through giving, we become to a state of unity. We bond and join and connect with something beyond ourselves. So love comes through giving. Do you guys get that? Are there any questions? I don't mind questions. I'm not afraid of them. So fine. Hands up if you've heard that idea that love comes through giving before. Great. So now I'm going to convince you it's a complete load of garbage and I can't believe you ever bought into it. I always thought that was a nice Devar Torah. I always appreciate Wed Jul when he said it. Until something happened that changed my whole perception of love. I had my first child. My first baby boy. The mothers in the room, one over here. What's it like to have your first child? I mean, after the having of the child. What's that?
One word description.
If you can, that'd be impossible. I'd be impressed if you could pull that up. Right. What's the love a parent has like a child? Like overwhelming. How long did it take to kick in?
Still kicking in.
Still kicking in. La'at habibi, as they say. So I'm one of those kind of crazy head over heels people. The second I held my first boy in my arms, I was like gone. I'm like, it's like one of those movies, a bluebird sits on my shoulder and I'm like skipping through fields of daisies. I actually left him and I missed him. How long do you have to love and know someone before you miss someone? I went and dreamed about him that night. I wanted to get back to the hospital to hold him again. It's like meeting your first child. Now, it doesn't happen with all parents straight away. I'm crazy, so it happens to me straight away. But like sometimes it can take a few weeks, a few months to kick in for some parents. Right? Still kicking in. Not for you. How long did it take?
It's immediate.
It's immediate.
Yeah, it's immediate.
It's crazy.
But I'm the woman. I carried the baby for 9 months.
What's your point?
9 months.
I call a kavod to you.
I'm talking about the giving side.
Did you give your husband the opportunity? You discussed it? Or a lawyer negotiated?
Well, it's easier when you give birth. You've already bonded.
That's a lie. I'm going to convince you that's not true. Now, what you say is very reasonable, and I appreciate you trying to defend it, but I want to show you it's not true, because the husband also feels the same. And I would like to feel that I'm a new age sensitive man, and I'd like to say I helped my wife. I did. I'm one of the, honey, we're going to have the baby together. This is a bonding experience. It's a partnership. It's a relationship. She goes into labor, and I go, what can I do? She says, get out! I'm like, I'm outside. I go, okay, I'm outside. I'm raising up, it's a relationship. We're doing it together. Can I help? Get out! Okay, I'll get out. That's what it's like. What are you guys doing the stairs? You can't get the stairs? It's a discount. It's 50% off after the first half an hour. So suddenly, like, there's no relationship. The man doesn't invest anything in the relationship. So why does the man love the child? You're not the man. Well, here's one we prepared earlier, sir. No, he's not outside. I don't know, maybe he is. This is a big question. Falling in love, to me, with my child, which is the most powerful, immediate experience I've ever had of love in my life. Thank God I love my wife tremendously, but you can't compare it. It's like, the feeling it felt like to meet my first child was this feeling like, it's like, you have your house. And you know how big your house is. My house is a little smaller than this house. Probably this whole room would be my house. I'm going, actually, it probably is. Oh, you Toronto people that have stairs in your house. You're all very exciting. Going back to my hovel in Jerusalem. So it's like I know my house and I know my room, my bookshelf. And you go to bed, you wake up the next morning, and suddenly from nowhere, yesh ma'ayin, there's a stairwell in the middle of the room. When you climb up the stairwell, and there's a whole new renovation. That would be insane. That would be crazy. That's what falling in love with your child is like. It's like thinking before you meet your child, you go, I know the people I love, I know the people I don't like, I know everybody else. And then suddenly there's a person, a whole renovation in your heart, a whole new room in your heart of something to love. When I experienced that, You could say, how do you explain that, right? You could say, oh, that's because you gave. I didn't really give to the child. But Tessa's not talking about a mystical idea of giving. But Tessa's talking about psychologically. When you invest in a person, over time you get it. You invest in the child. It's not like you invested in the child itself. You saw the child. You nurtured it as a personality. The father didn't invest in the child. But the father feels that the same. At that moment, I went back to my rabbis and I said, you lied to me. Because you said love comes through giving. I've never met this child at all. I've never felt such an unbelievable, overwhelming love. And that's when my rabbi told me an amazing secret. He said, there's not one kind of love. There's two kinds of love. One kind of love comes through investment, through nurturing, through developing, through hard work, through mesirus nefesh, through tricks like giving. In marriage, you have to create that giving and that nurturing, that development comes through time and energy, mesirus nefesh. But there's another love which is qualitatively and quantitatively different. It's a love that's organic, it's a love that's inherent, it's a love that's immediate, it's a love that's complete. It's a love that does not need to be built, it just needs to be revealed. It's like the love that a parent has for a child. And the Sfirma Kadoshim say that's the kind of love that one Jew has towards another. Like the love of a person towards their child, a love that's so overwhelming and blissful and powerful and immediate, and there's never ever, the mystics are going to tell you a secret tonight, there's never ever anything you need to do to nurture it, develop it. It just needs to be not built, it just needs to be revealed. This is the secret of loving between Jews. Now I want to explain to you how that's possible. Because I assume that's not intuitive to you. I'm assuming you don't walk down the street and feel blissfully overwhelmed like you're a child to every Jew you meet. There's Shmuley who, from the challah shop, and he gives me his challah, and I fall in love with the kedusha of a Jew. And there's that lady on the bus who says Tehillim every day. I'm like, I fall down in tears. The Shekhinah is standing before me. It's not about that. There's tzaddikim that are was like that, by the way. Yeah, but there's tzaddikim, and who are we? So the answer is the Sfirma have a mahalach of how you can achieve that. So I want to teach this to you. I'm going to teach this to you now. How is that possible? So I'm going to go over a classic sefer that discusses this, and you're going to see psychologically it's possible if you understand this a little. The Tanya maps this out. Can I say Tanya in this house? Is that okay? He's going to throw me out on a trapdoor that falls on me or something. The Tanya in chapter 11 base, Lev, and it's supposed to be dafka because of that. In chapter 32, has a very extraordinary piece of Torah which teaches the true secret of what it means love between two Jews. I'm going to read it in Hebrew and English for the sake of time. And listen very carefully, because the secrets of our lives and our relationships and our chaylis is in this line. Nikul kol Yisrael achim mamash mitzad shorish nafsham b'Hashem echad. All the Jewish people are called brothers and sisters, literally. This is very carefully to his description, according to the root of their souls, which is one in Hashem. But it's just their bodies that separate them. And therefore, ha'oisim gufam ha'ika, a person that sees, listen very carefully, it's a trick of consciousness he's talking. It sounds like he's talking strange chassidus, but this is something you can learn to do. A person that sees that their body is the main part of who they are, and by body he means their physical body, their emotions, their fears, their doubts, their lust, their ego, all that kind of stuff, that it identifies more with the nefesh of Bahamas. If a person sees that their physical self is the real essence of who they are, then it's impossible for them to have a love, an ava, v'achva, amitius, b'neihem, between other Jews, rather than they're going to have a love that's tuluya b'dava, that's dependent on another thing. But if a person has the capacity, when they look at themselves, they see themselves as a neshama. And we have to discuss what that means. It sounds like something weird in Chassidus. What does it mean to see myself as a body, to see myself as a soul? If a person would see themselves as a soul, they would automatically feel a love and connection to it between all people. It's very interesting. How you see another person is based on how you perceive yourself. How you perceive another person is based on the part of yourself that you're looking to the outside world in. Anyone thinks they can explain this? Hands up if you think you understand this a little. You would have an idea what the heck he's talking about. Anybody? No? A Hasidic friend over here? No one has a clue, really?
It makes sense.
What's that?
It makes sense.
Explain it to me. I'd love to know how.
I was just reiterating what we saw already.
Okay. Yes.
If a person sees themselves as an neshama.
Yes.
And they'll relate to other people as neshama.
What does it mean to see yourself as a neshama? It sounds like something someone could say to you. You're like, what does that mean? How do I see myself as a neshama? I'm a big blob of light floating out in space in Shemayim. Torah is supposed to speak to you as a reality. Torah is supposed to be telling you what we're actually able to do right now. How do I really do that? I'm going to give you an example of what this means. This is a little deep. Can you guys handle something a little deep? Are you going to panic emotionally? What's going to happen? I have a story to describe this. The story is the easy part, then it gets tricky after this. Anyone been here in Yerushalayim for Sukkah? Has anyone ever been there? Wow. Was it a Shiur? What happened? Everyone went together? Sukkah is like the best. It's the best, right? It's like there's a Sukkah everywhere you look. You walk down the street, you just bump into Sukkah. It's like they're falling out of the sky, like manna from heaven, right? And it's just like, where you walked up where I live, it's like literally you can't walk in a straight line. So it's more than $1 because there's sukkah on either side. There's sukkahs on the buildings, there's sukkahs on the streets, right? So it's moedic. So in my house where I live, we had a sukkah for many years. We went sukkah to have a pastor, we had a sukkah. We had a sukkah downstairs on the ground. So there's literally like we're in the sukkah and the neighbors are there and the Sephardi neighbors upstairs and everyone's around us. Now we have a lot of chevra that come to our sukkah. We like singing in our sukkah. So there's one year, the secular neighbor who I love is a very geshmak yid. And he likes me. I'm the token Haredi that he likes. I don't know why either, but he does. So one year I'm sitting in the sukkah with all the chevra and we're singing together. It's very geshmak. And all of a sudden he walks in. And as he walks into, it's very cute. He walks into the sukkah and he says, "Hi, I just want to come say Shalom Aleichem and Chag Sameach." And as he does this, he puts his hand in his pocket. He pulls out this white paper kippah. He's being very respectful of me. Apparently that he's being respectful to me. I said, "You don't have to put it on if you don't want it." He said, "No, I'd love to." He said, "Look, are you going to offer me l'chaim?" Oh, sure. So we sit him down, and he comes down, sits next to us, and we offer him l'chaim, and we're having l'chaim. He's got his white paper kippah. Like the kind you go when you go to the Katz. You ever seen the men's side? They have this big crazy kippahs that they get. So I said, "Let's sing." I said, "You want to sing?" He said, "Sure, I'll sing." So we start singing a song. It's a very geshmak song, and everyone in the sukkah, there's a lot of hislavas, and everyone's singing together. It's a lot of fun. Now halfway through, I hear because in that sukkah over there, they're singing in that sukkah, and everyone's singing their song, and it's kind of like a bit of a dissonance because we're all singing different songs. And this idea comes, I'm sitting next to the secular Jew, and I'm super crazy, ultra-Orthodox like this, and I think it's beautiful that we're sitting together in Achdus, and instead of Achdus, and we know that a Sukkah is in the discourse of Aaron, and Aaron was Oyehev Shalom and Vodev Shalom. So I said, we shouldn't be singing, why is everybody singing different songs? And in the middle of the song's being building to a climax, so I bang on the table, and at that moment I go, shh. And everybody's very angry at me because how dare, it's sacrilege, you would interrupt a song just as it's reaching its peak. And I go, shh, and I point to that sukkah over there because they're singing a song. And then I start singing with our sukkah the song that they're singing. And so we're all singing together, and we're all thinking this is pretty cool, little actors, right? And we're not sure if they realize that we're singing with them. So at the end of the song, we start a new song to see if they'll come along, and they come along. So like, this works. Okay, this is great. So now we've got two done. Now we're going to do the next one over here. So the next one over here, we start singing, and we all start tuning into what they're doing. We hear them because there's two sukkahs singing, we hear it, and then we change our song to their song, and they come with us. Okay, so now we've got the sukkahs are rocking right now, okay? So sukkah number 3. So upstairs over here is our Sephardi neighbors. They sing songs that all sound like no offense to David Serb and all these others. I love that music, but I'm not that nasally to sing it. And there's just no other Sephardi song they would ever know except the Joy Yikra Nigan. And no one's going to sing them the Sukkah, except at that moment, the Sephardi family is singing Joy Yikra. So I bang on the table and I go Sephardi right there and then, and all the other Sukkahs come with. Now, I think this is the coolest thing that ever happened in Jerusalem since the Churban Beis Hamikdash, right? Now, if I imagine in my head like what that looked like, and the outside, it's just a cartoon, and all the sukkahs are kind of like bouncing back and forward together. Now, it was such a beautiful moment of afters. Of course, when we all walked outside, we all kind of smiled at each other. Right? So it's like such a beautiful moment afters. And all of us are singing together, and kippahs, and no kippahs, and white kippahs, and black kippahs. And it makes you ask a question. This is such a deep Kabbalistic question. You'll never possibly be able to work out the answer to this. But I'll throw it at you anyway in case you fluke it. Why did we never sing before? We all live in the same building. We're there all year. Why was that the first time we ever sang together? I know it's too Kabbalistic. You can't possibly work out the answer to that. But if you had to use your seichel a little, What would be the answer to that question? Yes, ma'am, name?
What's that?
Correct. Good for you. I get struck by that surname answer. Yes.
You had to submit yourself to do what the other person was doing. It wasn't like you made the other people to do what you did.
Right.
You had to change what you were doing to what the other person was doing. You had to change yourself.
So I appreciate the Mosadic, Messiah's Nefesh kind of approach.
I didn't mean you.
There's a word of bittul, and it says Nefesh. I had to be machniya, my yitzhahara, to get over my gaiva. That's possibly true.
You're in a sukkah, you're outside.
What's a more basic answer? Can you just quote me Rashi? What's pshat on the story? Why do I never sing with them before? Each week, we are all at our Shabbos tables in the same building. Why did we never sing before? What's the answer? I couldn't hear them. Why couldn't I hear them?
You weren't listening.
Not because I wasn't listening. If I would sit at my Shabbos table and sing, you think I could hear the neighbors upstairs? No. You think you could do that right here and right now in your house? The house with another big room and an upstairs and downstairs and the grassy area and the tennis courts and the swimming pools, the butler's quarters and their butler's quarters. That's what life in Toronto is, right? That's where everyone comes fundraising here, something like many butler's quarters and the butler's swimming pools and the butler's tennis courts. And you can't hear it. The reason is, let's just stick to pshat. I don't like to see this kind of stuff. The reason is, my friend, the reason you can't hear them because the walls are so thick and the sforum shelves are so thick. And all the candelabras are so thick. And look at this breaking the sound. It's because we have so much stuff that we can't hear the singing on the other side. Do you hear that? It's just a mashal. Do you get the mashal? But you get us out of our houses, out of our world of things, and suddenly a person who is like so close is suddenly right there, and then we can hear them sing. We can hear their song. We can sing with their song. Do you guys get that? So that's the mashal. What's the nimshal? That we can walk past the person and we can't hear their song. Why? It's what's called in Chassidus yeshus. How do you translate yeshus? Stuffness. There is nesses. I want to explain to this is what the Tanya is saying. If you could get rid of that stuffness, that thing that yeshus, that gaiva, then suddenly a person who's right next to you is someone you can make contact with. This is not an issue with the bookshelf. This is not an issue with the candelabras. This is about that which is within us. I'm going to try and explain this to you. And here's the deep part. I have 3 questions. I'm going to teach you something very deep to explain this. And everything I said up to now is just a setup to teach you this thing right now. Question number 1. What does it mean there's inherent love between all Jews? I thought we learned the only inherent love we have is self-love. I don't feel inherent love towards Jews. I like Jews. I care for the Jews. It's not incredible, overwhelming love. 1. Question number 2. Question number 2 is, I thought we said the only inherent love is self-love. And question number 3 is, what is all this yeshus stuff that gets in our way? So to understand that, we're going a little Chassidus and Kabbalah right now. The answers to all our questions are hidden in the words itself. V'ahavta l'reicha kamocha. Listen very carefully, my friends. Oh, pretty fancy, Rabbi. Actually works as well. Watch very carefully. We're going to dismantle this line from a mystical perspective and see something very moedic hidden inside. V'ahavta l'reicha kamocha. What is the word for friend in this passage? Reya. What is the usual word that we use for friend in Torah? Chaver. Why did the pasuk use the word Reya and not Chaver? Chaver is much more commonly used word. Why is the pasuk not V'ahavta l'chaverecha kamocha? That means you never have 2 words that are both friends. The Das and the Kodesh, the Hebrew letters themselves are like the DNA. You would never say I have 2 completely similar people with the same DNA. Sorry, 2 totally different people with the same DNA. Therefore, if you say that both of these are called friend, but the letters are different, it must mean that the words are essentially different, or essentially different ideas. So I want to map out the secret of V'ahavta l'reicha kamocha is hidden in these 2 letters, Reish Ayin. Why do we use the word Reish Ayin and not the word Chaver? So to understand that, we have to understand the letters Reish Ayin. If I write the words Reish Ayin on the board by themselves, what other Hebrew ideas or words do these two letters mean? Evil. Do you ever notice the Hebrew word for friend is evil? Do you ever think your friends are messed up? This is the proof of that. Now you have a pasuk to support that. Isn't that emotionally exciting for you? So these letters, Reish Ayin, means A, friend, B, evil, and that's already weird. What else do those two letters mean? Does anyone else know? What's that? What? A roa, beautiful. A shepherd. Shepherd. It's actually a code word for Hashem. There's a Rashi in the Gemara that says the code word for Hashem. Hashem ro'i lo echsa. Hashem is a roa. Hashem is a shepherd. And Hashem is a reish ayin. There's another proof for that as well. We don't need right now. Anyone say Tehillim? I thought we were just talking about Tehillim before. Capital base. To re'aim b'shevet bazel. It means to fracture and break. It means to break something with an iron rod. Reish ayin, to fracture or fragment and break. To fracture and break. There's another famous one. There's something we do on Rosh Hashanah which has the root of Reish ayin. Teruah. It means a shofar blow. Bingo. Any others you can think of? I think we kind of covered them all. Listen very carefully. There's a mystical axiom. There's a mystical axiom, and the axiom goes like this. Whenever you have multiple different ideas with the same roots, it's an indicator that they're not different ideas, they're really the same idea with different expressions. So somehow all these ideas of friend and evil and shepherd and Hashem and fracture and break and shofar, they're all a similar idea. Can you see a link that unites them all? Can you see how they're all connected? No, someone's shaking their head. She went through every permutation possible and came up with absolutely nothing at all. So let me help you out with this. There's a classic question in Hashkafa. You ever notice that problems happen in the world? Well, it's not just you, it happens to all of us. It's a classic, most fundamental Hashkafa question of all time. Listen very carefully, I'll tell you something very deep now. Why do godly things happen in the world? If Hashem loves us and Hashem is perfect, and Hashem creates a perfect world, why is there any suffering and pain at all? What's the answer to that question? Something about free will. So the answer is, if Hashem loved us, why didn't He create a perfect world? And the answer is, He did. He created a perfect world, and man built. And the issue is, the mystics say, the reason we suffer today with all the issues we suffer, as the Gemara says, for anything between a Holocaust and a person puts their hand in their pocket to pull out $1 and they only have 50 cents. Why is there any pain or suffering or difficulty in the whole world? And the answer is because we are paying the price, we are being punished for the sin that Adam and Chava did. Now you could ask the basic question, which is what? Just because they made a mistake, why should we suffer? Anyone know the answer to that question? Because we are them. This is what the mystics say. Listen very carefully. This is the Sefer I hope you learn one day. It's called Talmud Devorah. Talmud Devorah says something which is kind of weird. And this is very deep if you can follow it. This is the interesting part of the class. I'm working hard to teach you. Adam Rishon is what's called in Kabbalah a neshama klali, a grand unified soul. And when Adam committed the sin, what happened was, if a person ever chas v'chila does an aveira, there's many different parts of him that are involved with that aveira. There's the hand that does it, the thought that thinks it, the heart that feels it, the mouth that eats it. There's many different parts that are involved. Adam was a grand unified soul that included all our souls within it. We are Adam and we are Eve. And when Adam committed that sin, what happened in history is his soul fractured into thousands and thousands and thousands of souls. And every single one of us is a portion of Adam. And every single one of us is really one being. And the mystics say the whole of history, 6,000 years, are like 6 days of the week, and the world to come is Shabbos, like Yom Kippuр Shabbos, and every single one of it is like one being moving through history, all trying to fix the little part that we played. And all our challenges in life and all our struggles of life are really just to fix and realign and mechazik ourselves to do a tikkun necessary so we can all come back together and become one soul. Everyone heard the term kibbutz galius? So most people understand kibbutz galius to mean, at the end of days we're all going to come back to Eretz Yisrael. That's why I advise business people when they want to know what stock to invest in. I would say all stocks will rise and fall, but the only guaranteed stock at the end of days is El Al. Because at the end of the day, every Jew is going to get on a plane and come back to Israel. Who else are they going to fly? Everyone's going to be eating kosher finally, right? And all the Jews are going to come back from the four corners of the world. That's what most people think the kibbutz galius is. But what kibbutz galius is in Kabbalah is something much deeper. The mystics say, the Ramchal say, other Sfarim say, that the true kibbutz galius is right at the end of days when Mashiach comes, when the base of Bigdash is built, when there's Techiyas and Mesim, when the Tzaddikim, right, the Avos are back in the world. Then what's going to happen is incredible global consciousness where every single one of our souls is going to be reconstituted, restructured. We're all going to unite together into one complete consciousness. You and I and every single person will understand every person's journey, and we'll see that all the struggles you went through was for each other, and we unite together in one complete being. That's the true kibbutz galius. We started in one as unity, we broke down to work on ourselves, and we resurrected and united back to a whole. And that's the secret, if you understand it. V'ahavta l'reicha kamocha. You should love your friend like yourself. Why is that? Because they are yourself. Because every single one of us is one and the same. We're all part of the same global, universal Shekhinah consciousness, one grand unified consciousness. But right now we look different. Because that one's fractured and separated down into multiple parts. And at the end of days we say Hashem will be Echad, and every single one of us will come back together. So you have a model of what begins in singularity, goes through fractionness and breaks down, and gets united together as a whole. Hands up if you just hear that idea, you hear that model. Okay. And therefore, the root Resh Ayin means in Kabbalah, when something that is inherently one gets fractured or broken into separate parts. You hear that? For example, the shofar blow is called teruah. Teruah, the root is Resh Ayin, right? So think what happens. First we have a tekiah. How does the tekiah sound? One unified whole. Then it goes teruah. The one breaks down into multiple parts. Then tekiah. You see that idea of one, fractionness, united again as one. So that's why to re'en b'shevet bazel, to fracture and break, here it actually means to be fractured and broken off from the whole, right? We can go through all of these. This is what it means, evil. Taiva mavakesh nifrag. You'll see the definition of evil. The definition of ra is something that fractures you from yourself. If a person ever does an action that they know is not good, like lashon hara. What is lashon hara? The power of lashon, of speech, is the power of connection. Dibur is the power of connection as we speak good words, loving words to other people. When I speak negativity towards people, I create negativity between two Jews, and we fracture, we become divided, we become fragmented. You follow that idea? But the idea of all evil, when a person goes after yetzer hara, after desires, they feel fractured within inside. They start feeling guilty at themselves, angry at themselves. They start turning against themselves. They distance themselves from other people. They become cut off and fragmented from God. So the idea of evil is fragmentation within ourselves. There's many of examples of these. Hashem, why does Hashem mean fragmented? Because every Jew is a godly soul. We're fragmented from God. We're separated from God. There's many examples of this. The concept of a shepherd. Why were the great leaders of the Jewish people shepherds? Does anyone know? It's not because they came from New Zealand. The reason is because a shepherd is a person who's in charge of a large flock. A shepherd is a guide, a tzaddik that guides the flock, that guides the details. A tzaddik is always called a shepherd because he takes every Jew and all the details and puts us all back together and guides us and teaches and shows every person, like the conductor in a symphony orchestra, what is their magic, what is their gift, what is their contribution, and how do we work together as a community as a whole. So Resh Ayin is always the property of when something which is inherently one breaks down into multiple pieces. And if you understand that, listen very carefully. That's what Resh Ayin means. What does Chava mean? What does the literal word Chaver mean? It actually comes from the word that means chibur. What does chibur mean? To join, bond, and connect together. So it's very interesting because the Torah has two different words for friend. One inherently means we're fragmented and we're separate from each other. And one inherently means we're joined and bonded and connected together. Do you hear that? So which one is right? Is Torah teaching us, is Hashem teaching us that we're all one? Or is Hashem teaching us we're all fragmented? Which is the right one? Does anyone know? Both. How can both be right? Aren't they opposites? So here's the answer. Can I borrow this for a second? Do we use inches or centimeters here in Toronto? Centimeter. You're confident in that? What's your name, ma'am? Adina. Can I ask you a question? How wide is this folder? How wide would you say it is?
We know inches.
She's messing with my mind. I did confirm that in 5 minutes. This is kind of loud right now. And here's a close-up of my shirts. Answering the famous question, when a man is away from home for 2 weeks, can he keep his shirt clean? And now, thanks to this research done tonight, you will be able to find the answer, but only on the live video recording. Are you an inch person or centimeter person?
I can do both.
Wow, she goes both ways. That's very bold. What an open-minded religious woman she is. Okay, so Dina, you ready? Blow me away. How wide is that in inches?
3.
3 inches? She's inch challenged. And that's a big problem in Shidduchim. Most guys on the second date are going to ask you to weigh something and measure something.
Right.
You have to know that. Guys are it's very important for guys that you can measure things accurately. It's one of the top things guys are looking for girls. This was not supposed to take 10 minutes of the class, so why don't we just move along to the next person in line? Hi, your name is also Adina. Great. How wide is that, would you say?
About like 7.
7, great. And your name is? Adina, wonderful. Adina, what's your name?
Eve.
Eve. We were just blaming you a second ago. Yeah. Wonderful. How wide is that? Yeah, just the one you're looking at. How wide is that?
This?
Yeah.
And centimeters or inches?
Inches. What did you do?
I did inches.
Okay, inches.
I don't remember.
This has never been so challenging. On to the next. What's that? 12. So now we have a machlokas. One side says it's 8 inches or 7 inches, and one side says it's 12. Which one is right? Both right. What's the difference? They're looking on it from 2 perspectives. So what does the Torah mean when it says Reya versus Chaver? The mystics say the following thing. Your Reya is when a girl gets to seminary, when a girl comes to the community, you see this girl go, who's she? What's the problem? Where's she from? Is she from like me? Is she different? Do I like her? No. She begins as a reya, because a reya is a perception that we have of another person when we don't know who they are. They don't quite click in with us. They look different. But suddenly you get to know them, and suddenly you give to them, and suddenly you share with them, and you join a bond. They become your chevusa, lashon chibor. When a person looks different to you, they're called reya. When a person becomes connected, and you experience the connection, then they're called a chava. You guys got that? So let me ask a question. If that is true, my friends, why is the mitzvah v'ahavta l'reicha kamocha and not v'ahavta l'v'chareicha kamocha? Because what? That's what we have to work on. Because when you say to everyone we should love Jews, everyone's basic answer is, I do love Jews. I love this person, I love my friends. But that girl in the corner, I don't like talking to her. Right? I don't want to include her. You see, our automatic pilot is I like the Jews that I like, and I don't like the Jews that I don't like. The mitzvah is to take the Jew that you don't like, the Reya, who seems to be separate, and to realize that they too are an extension of who you are. To love the fragmented, separate, the one that seems different, to see that they're really one and the same. And therefore, that's why we do Shalach Manas Ish L'Ra'ehu. You're supposed to give gifts. Who do we give the gifts to on Purim? Our best friends, all the nice people we want to see on Purim and have a l'chaim with. But the mitzvah is actually to make connections where there's disconnection. It's to make connections with the Reya. Now, if you understand that, then we're going to understand the following thing. First of all, the first question we asked is, I thought we said the only love that we have that's inherent love is self-love. So how can the Tanya say that really we love every Jew? Because really every Jew is the self. Because really we are one. So if we have that down, here's the question that I want to answer. What does it mean, the yesh that gets in the way? Now we understand that we're all one, so we should love each other like we love ourselves. In the same way, if I pick up this cup right now, and I'm drinking with this cup and I smash it, it falls out of my hands, God forbid, and it falls onto the floor, does anyone turn around and slap their hand and go, how could you do that? Leave me alone, don't touch it, you want to take this out? You would never start a battle with your own hands. Why? Because if you pull your perspective back, you realize, look, that's just one and the same. See, that's the shift from Reya to Chava. And that's a true perception. If you look from the neshama sees the inherent connection, they're one. But the eyes of Reya sees that these two things are separate. So the Tanya wants to ask you, if we're supposed to have this inherent love because really we are just one, what is that thing that keeps us apart? What is that yeshus that does not allow us to experience that? So I want you to do an exercise for me. This is a little weird exercise. I can't force you to do this. I can just give you an opportunity to do this. What really keeps us from not seeing and loving from all Jews if inherently we are really one? The answer is this. Here's an exercise. I can't make you do this. But if you want to do it in your head, you may see something interesting. I want you to choose right now somebody in the world that you really love. Someone in the world that you really connect to. If you had to be stuck on a desert island, chas v'chalila, for 1 week with somebody, this is your favorite person to be around. I want you to choose someone like that right now. I can't make you do this, but if you do it, you'll see something interesting. Hands up if you've got it. You got it? Great. Hands up if you can't think of anyone like that at all. And they have a professional outside that will work with you after they finish with this girl. Okay. There's no one you love? Really? Really? Okay, great. Now, 1, 2. I want you to pick somebody that you don't like. Now listen very carefully to what that means. First of all, please don't pick me. It's embarrassing. I want you to pick someone you don't like, and listen very carefully. I don't mean someone that, God forbid, is evil or has done a very destructive, awful thing to you. That's not what I mean. I don't mean Adolf Hitler, Yimach Shemai. I mean somebody you know in your life, somebody that's around you, that you know is basically, for all intents and purposes, a decent person. It's just they kind of tick you off, as Chazal say, right? They just kind of it's kind of annoying to be around, it's frustrating, they kind of trigger stuff. You know what I mean? I want you to think if there's a person like that in your life who you just kind of don't like so much, you don't want to be around so much. It could be a family member. It often is a family member. And I want you to pick a person like that right now. Hands up if you got it. Really? Everyone else just loves all people all the time. That's what's happening in Toronto. That's very inspiring. Call it about you. Now get real and pick somebody already. Hands up if you got it. Great. Level 2. I want you to focus on the person that you love. And I want you right now to say to yourself, what's the one thing that I most love about them? If I had to sum up that character trait, that essence, the feeling, in 1 or 2 words, or 1 or 2 properties, that thing that they do that I like, that way that they act, their energy, whatever that is. I know it's hard to sum a person up, but if you could just sum it up in 1 or 2 words or 1 sentence, what would be that one thing? Consciously try and break that down in your mind. It's very interesting if you can do that. Hands up if you got it. Okay. Now guess what we're going to do? Go to that person you don't like so much. Oh my gosh. She got it already? And I want you to choose right now 1 thing. If you had to sum up, I don't like them because I don't like them. Okay, very sophisticated. Excellent. If you have to sum up that 1 thing, what's the 1 thing that most annoys you about them? It's because of what she says, because what she looks like, because what she wears, because her attitude, because of her shkafa, because she's so bossy, because she's so shy, because she's so introverted, because she's so extroverted. Because what would you sum up that 1 thing that really annoys you about them? If you had to break it down, boil it down to 1 or 2 things, could you pick those 1 or 2 things? Try that now. Hands up if you got it. Correct. So if we have those things, so I want to show you something. I'm a prophet. I know, I'm very humble as well. And I have incredible supernatural knowledge about all things. And I did a lot of research on every single person in this room. When we signed up outside, then we actually did the research. We went online and found everything about you. And I know exactly how your mind works. And it's not really, but there's a law in the Gemara and Kedushin which tells us how our mind works. And it's the following thing. If you think of the person you like right now, why do you like that person more than anyone else? If everybody is a portion of godliness in the world, and everyone's part of the Shekhinah, why do I like that person more? So let me ask you a question right now. If you take that one value of that thing that they have, that value that you chose, and you ask yourself a question, is that a value or character trait that you also have very strongly, or that you would want to have very strongly? Is that positive trait similar to your positive aspect, or that you want very much to be part of your positive aspect? Hands up if that is true. Hands up high. Let's see the hands. Hands up high. Let's say hands are going up slowly, slowly. Oh, there they go. How did I know that? Is it because I'm a prophet? Because the Baal Shem Tov says that the whole world is a spiegel. The whole world is a mirror. That what we see in the external world is just an expression of how we perceive ourselves in the internal world. Now, if you understand that, here comes the scary part of this. Why do we not like the person that we don't like? You see this coming, don't you? They're wriggling in their seats suddenly. Why do we not like the person that we don't like? Now, you could say it's because they're an annoying thing, but everybody in the world has annoying character traits. Why do we tolerate annoying character traits in one person, but we can't tolerate in another? The Gemara itself in Kedushin says, Hakol hapasel mamumo pasel. When you write off another person, it's because there's an issue within yourself that you don't like. So I want you to take the value of the other person that you don't like, listen very carefully, and I want to ask yourself, is that something you do that you don't like, A, or something that triggers within you some other feeling or other issue from another part of your life? Think about it. Is what they do that you don't like something that you don't like about yourself? Or in general, is the feeling that is brought up in the person something that comes up by another? Does that come up, that feeling towards that person, with other people as well? Or does it trigger a feeling that you've had in other times of your life? Hands up if that is true for you. Let's see hands up high. Only two people in the room. Hands up high. Hands up high. Put them up high. You can't do that. It's us or something. And two hands up. Now, this is very interesting. There's a lot of people. Once when I did this exercise in the Bay, this Russian girl walked up to me. She was a very smart girl. And she said, Rabbi Katz, your whole exercise didn't work. I was like, it's not my exercise. It's the Gemara's and the Russian talk. I said, why? She said, well, you know, the girl that I chose, the thing that really annoyed me about her was she was very stupid. No comments. But it happened to be the girl that said this is actually Russian. She's very intellectual and very, very bright. So I kind of said, oh, I guess it doesn't work. Okay, I said, so, no, it's okay. You tried it. It's an exercise. You know, it's not gospel, so to speak. You can let it go. She said, great. And she walked out of the room, and right as she was walking out of the room, I turned around and I said, Doniel, just one quick question. When you say she's stupid, you mean she's intellectually stupid? She said, no. And I said, what kind of stupid? She goes, it's just like, you know, dumb things happen to her, and she does dumb things, and she doesn't learn no matter how many times they happen. And the second she says that, she just burst into tears and ran out of the room. Because she never realized that the reason she doesn't like this person because it triggers something about herself. Ask yourself a question right now. Why is it you don't like that person? What is it that annoys you about that person? Why can you tolerate other people's idiosyncrasies, but this person itself is a trigger? And if you work with any individual in depth, which is something I do a lot of the time, you will always see that what that person is triggering within you is some issue you have within yourself. What breaks down every marriage is not most of the time what that other person does, because when that other person does that thing, that awakens my fears, my doubts, my pain, my confusion, my anger. And really, we never even see that person at all because we're so caught in our yeshus, our details, and the people we love because they're an extension of the things that I feel I need to love. And the people we don't like because they're an extension of my feelings or my fear or my anger or my bitterness. Now listen very carefully. Here's the interesting part. Watch the words on the board. If the reason you don't like that person is because you don't like this part within you, because you don't accept this person within you, because that person has an issue with anger, and you bury your own anger, so you're not aware of it, but the truth is you resent yourself for being angry. So what is the way that you would come to love that other person? What would that technique be? Tell me what that technique would be. If you could accept your own flaws, if you could accept your own issue, if you could accept your own pain, if you could accept the negativity, the evil, the destructive force within you, you could love that person as well. Do you get that? So if you get that, watch very carefully on the board. V'hafta l'reicha kamoicha is a commandment that you should love and you should give to this other person that seems different, like yourself. But if you literally translate the term, it actually says v'hafta, and you should love l'reicha. Reya means ra. L'reicha means your negativity. You should love and accept your negativity, your challenge, your yetzer hara, and accept it that this is my challenge as part of yourself. And if a person will learn to come to terms with their own failings, with acceptance and self-love, then automatically they could begin to love other people as well. That doesn't mean I'm happy I have a yetzer hara, but it doesn't mean I demand that right now, right the second I get over all my yetzer hara. I understand I'm in a process. I understand I have this because of the challenges I've been through in my life. And at that moment I accept and love myself. You will find this actually works. You suddenly become much more tolerant and accepting of other people. And therefore the pasuk doesn't just say, and you should love others by yourself. It doesn't just say you should love these people like yourself because they are yourself. It really says you should love and accept your struggle, your pain, your process as being okay. Because if you can love and accept yourself, you'll be empowered instantly to love and accept the people more. Because the truth is we are all one, we're inherently connected, but the reason we don't see others, because we go through life seeing people through our own desires, through our lust, through our fear, through our ego. We judge them because we're judging ourselves. And if we would love and accept ourselves, we would begin to instantly, and this is true, you can teach people how to do it, love and accept other people as well. But because the more, I'm telling you straight up, when I've met people, especially girls that judge other girls more and more, you can tell them off, you can give them musa, you can tell them to speak Lashon Hara, but if you just show them, you know straight away it's very hard. You know straight away how self-critical they're being. Even though they won't tell you that, you turn to them and say, wow, you're very critical of yourself, and they can burst out crying. How did you know that? How did you see that? Because I see if you're judging yourself, you're judging other people. Any questions on that point?
How does that work with total random strangers that you've never met before?
It's best for a total random stranger. Why do you not like that stranger you've never met before?
I don't know anything about that, but I'm still judging them.
So that's a problem. We're not talking about you. We're talking about other people, the girls in the room, right? Excellent. Why would I not like somebody that I've never met? What's the answer to that question? It's called trust issues, right? It's called trust issues. How many times do I have to be hurt to not like a stranger? That I begin all relationships from a place of suspicion. I begin all relationships from a place of distrust, from mistrust. It's coming from my history. It's coming from my background. It's coming from fear. Because the natural state is I meet a Jew I don't know, and the first thing I should think is, if there's a Jew, I look to care. The people who have true love and true self-confidence, and that's a hard thing to say. I don't want you to beat yourself up about it. That would deceive the point of the class. But if a person's in a good place of confidence, you meet another person with love. You meet another person with caring. If a person is unable to do that, it's because they have pain and they have distrust within them, which is causing them to look through the eyes of the body and not through the eyes of the soul. Do you hear that a little? It's a discussion of how to do it. I want to end with a story. I'm embarrassed to tell you this story. Not really embarrassed. I'm Zercha to be a Baal Tshuva. I'm Zercha to have married a Baal Tshuva. And we went out a few times. And a few times in, it didn't take long. The first time I spoke to her on the phone, I thought, oh, I'm going to marry this woman. And we went out a few times. I thought, this is a very, I'm Zercha to find this person. I know it's going to work. I was the first person to fall in love. It took my wife a little longer. Even today, when my wife says when my wife says I love you, I always say to her, I loved you first. And she says, so what? So the moment I really fell in love with her, my wife is a writer, and she wrote a story. She showed me the story that she wrote. from a time in her life when she was searching out in the world and trying to find some truth and trying to find some connection. And if ever there's a story about what it means to live in Galus, it means in exile, what Jewish exile looks like, what Jewish enslavement looks like. You understand, we go through our life meeting Jews, meeting our brothers and sisters, but we're enslaved. We're enslaved because we don't see them, because we're enslaved to our fears. Enslavement means that my fears and my doubts and my pains and my lusts and my ego are more real to me than my soul. That's the opposite of chayrus. Chayrus is the freedom to love, the freedom to see good, freedom to be at peace, freedom to be confident. I'm going to try and describe the story to you that she told me, because when I heard this story, when I read this story, I cried, and the next day I proposed to her. And she told me a story of a time in her life she was 19 years old. And she was searching out there in the world for some kind of meaning. And when Jews don't have a place to go, they kind of go to all strange places. And she went away when she was 19 years old to this weekend workshop, a kind of for actors, for singers, a kind of feminist empowerment kind of movement. And they did all these kind of self-discovery exercises. I'm not sure if you've ever done anything like this. All these self-discovery exercises. And the end of this workshop, these are like a room full of non-Jews. And my wife is just in the middle of exile, right in this room. And the final exercise is like the big finale of the first day, right? And the women's in this, 40 women are sitting in this big, big circle. And they're sitting in this big, big circle, and what they have to do is, they're given, every woman has to step into the circle, and it takes a whole day to do this exercise of 40, and the women have to map out the 4 most important moments of their life. And the 4 most important moments of life, they have to get up and present to the other women in the group, but they have to do it in creative ways. The first time is you have to sum up the first most important moment of your life by only using 6 words, so it's kind of like a poem. And they're kind of weird things like that. And the last one is the most important. You just have to sing one song. You have to sing one song that sums up that moment of your life. And what happens is that the tradition in the group, the Mesorah, however, whatever they had to do, was that when you sing the song, whatever you're going to sing that time of life, that everybody should join in and sing that song with you. So it's a very invigorating, emotional moment. So what happened is, imagine that the first time the first girl gets up and she does her 4 things, and then she sings a song, and the next girl goes up. So that goes on all day. My wife gets up and does hers, and it goes on hours and hours and hours. And the first is very moving, very inspiring, and then you're bored, and then you're finished, right? And it goes dragging on for another 6 hours. So finally, my wife, at the end of the day, my wife is like thinking of her fears and her doubts, and she's caught in her own world, she's tired, and then she's bored, she's already left the place in her consciousness, right? She's 1,000 miles away, and there's like 3 girls left, and finally this girl gets up, and she starts doing her thing, and my wife's not even paying attention, she's caught in her own world and her own pain, and one girl was talking about something, a relationship breakup, and my wife's thinking, about love, and is it possible, and she starts getting caught up in her own mind, and this girl gets up. Now this girl starts doing her thing, and she starts doing her 6 words, and then she starts singing her song. Now my wife is totally not paying attention, but the first moment she's brought to attention is she hears the girls laughing, snickering at this girl that's singing. And it's not a very nice thing to do. And my wife doesn't know why, and she hears these snickers, and she looks up, and what happens is this girl in the middle is singing a song. And she's chosen to sing a song which is not even in English. And it's such a weird song that nobody in the group knows it. And it has these kind of guttural tones, these kind of language that nobody knows. And everyone's laughing at it, but they're trying to hold back. How embarrassing. Imagine getting up and burying the soul in a room, and you're singing the strangest song that nobody else knows, and everyone's kind of laughing at it, the 19-year-old girls. And my wife's kind of laughing, and then suddenly my wife tunes and goes, wait a second. I know this song. And my wife knew this song. It sounded like not even from this life, and it was something like she learnt in Sunday school 1,000 years ago. And my wife goes, oh, that's a Jewish song. And my wife tunes and goes, oh, wait, that's Hebrew. And my wife tunes in further, and the song goes like this: Adonai Lam Hashem Allah. Now my wife doesn't know Hebrew. My wife doesn't know that she knows the song, but somehow the song is familiar, like she heard it when she was a little girl, and her mother sang it to her maybe one time, or grandmother sang it to her maybe one time. And my wife suddenly realizes this girl is Jewish. And my wife suddenly realizes I'm Jewish. And the wife suddenly realized that nobody in the room knows the song, but I know her song. And she's standing up as a Jew singing in exile, and she has a song to sing, and she has a song from her soul, but nobody else knows the song. And suddenly my wife goes, who is this weird stranger? She says, she's not a Reya, she's a Chaver. And I want to read you the words that she wrote, because I was moved to tears when I read this. These are the words she wrote. When the song began of Adonai Lam, I glanced quickly around. I have known this prayer for as long as I can remember, but no one else's face shows the slightest flicker of recognition. The Hebrew syllables sound comforting and familiar. The woman keeps singing alone. I am the only one that knows how to join her. Tentatively, I grasp a fragment of the new melody and try to attach the words to it. My voice, quietly at first, reaching out to meet hers. Da 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 na na. The woman hears that she is no longer alone. Her eyes quickly scan the audience, trying to find the source of the new voice. At the same time that nearby participants turn to face me, astonished that another person among them can match these guttural foreign sounds, but I am oblivious to their stares. I am singing only for this woman, towards this woman, to whom I suddenly feel a deep connection. I know the meaning of her singing even though I do not understand the words of the song. Da 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 da. But when our eyes meet, the look we share is so intense that time stops. I see her relief and profound gratitude at having been saved from the nakedness of singing alone to dozens of uncomprehending faces. But beyond that, we recognize each other as sharing something that no one else in the room has. She does not need to tell me her story. I already know her story, just as she knows mine. I know you. We sing through the Hebrew words, eyes riveted on each other. I know what you mean, she smiles at me warmly, as we are lifted, ever so briefly, out of the room. If ever there was an image of exile, of Am Mefuzah Mefara, the two Jews can pass each other in the night, not knowing each other, laughing at each other, dismissing each other, but there's a song on the inside that they're singing. You know, Yisrael, the word Yisrael, I'm sure you all know, actually can be flipped around to actually translate as Shiur Kale, the song of God. Because every single one of our souls has a song, but every time we dismiss a person with sinus chinam, we miss the capacity to hear the song, we miss the capacity to sing with them, to share with them, to join, to see they are not a reya, they are actually a chaver, that we are joined and bonded as one. When the Jews left Mitzrayim, the Sfarim say, we have something called chametz. Chametz, the mystics say, is ego, is gaiva, is our fear, is our pain, is our lust, is our jealousy. And jealousy and fear and pain separates us from other Jews because we see them as threatening to us. And the mystics say the following thing. If you look at the word for chametz, chametz is numerical value 138, which is the same numerical value as the word chelik. Chelik means a portion. It means I am separate from you. We are not one. But the solution to chametz is we no longer eat ego. We eat matzah. And if you take the word matzah, matzah is numerical value 130. What did I say this was? 138. Matzah is numerical value 135, which is the numerical value kahal. Kahal means community. When I take out the ego and I have the humility, I take away the yeshus, I live in the Sukkah. I take out my physical world, and suddenly we are joined and bonded and united together. Pesach is a time of freedom, but freedom only comes through unity. That's why if you take the word Pesach itself, Pesach, and you take the numerical values of this word, that is 8, that is 60, and that is 80. If you add them all up, you get 148. You see that? We all know that the essence of Klal Yisrael is we are all one, we are all echad. Like we say in the Shema, echad. If you take the numerical value of the letters echad, you get 1, 8, and 4. 148. The idea is that we are fragmented, we are in exile when we see people through our own fears and doubts. But if a person becomes bigger than their yeshus, their ego, then we can find the unity. When we find the unity, that is the sign that Hashem wants us, sees how we unite together, then we become a kli. And Hashem yivarech esamav b'shalom. When we are complete together, we love each other, we support each other, we give to others, we nurture each other, only by loving myself, accepting myself. Let me tell you something. Out of all the frum girls I speak to each week from all around the world, there's a challenge in our community that the more of a Yireh Shamayim you think you are, the more there's a part of yourself you have to hate. You have to hate the part of you that can't be bothered doing mitzvahs. You have to hate the part of you that's not so connected to Shabbos. When they hand around a Tehillim list, there's a part who says, maybe I don't want to say Tehillim. You ever thought that before? And then you go, no, that's wrong. No, I can't think that way. No, that's inappropriate. You bury it down, you bury it down. But when you push it down and bury it down, it will fight back, it will explode. It's okay to have resistance. The Shalom defined the definition of Emunah as a person that struggles to be true. Not a person that is always true. But I acknowledge within myself there's parts of me that resist, and I accept myself even with my challenges. I accept myself as I know I want to do it. I want to train and nurture my nefesh Bahamas, but I don't want to hate myself. When you can love and accept yourself, no matter what's in that, you will find the capacity to love other people. When you can love and accept other people, we can truly build together to be a strong kahila, a kahal, and not a chalik. Not just I'm separate from everyone, I'm joined and bonded. When we join and bond together, Hashem will bless us. We become a base of Migdash. We're Zerchet Hashras Shechina. Hashem can dwell with us, and through that we will be Zerchet Bezrat Hashem, through the unity to have true chayvus from Toronto, from America, from the four corners of the world, to return to Eretz Yisrael, where we can truly be united as one and see the binyan base of Migdash Bezrat Hashem speedily in our days, Bezrat Hashem before Pesach. Thank you for your time, and amen.
Okay, I got a lot of thank yous here, so please bear with me, and my apologies if I leave anyone out. Rabbi David Saba, Rachel Mindy Axelrod, Lori Barron, Nava Bjernblatt, Sarah Breidowitz, Breidowitz? Is that right?
Yes.
Leslie Gorelick, Nechama Jacobs, Nina Kagan, Esther Kamenetsky, Jacqueline Klein, Nechama Markovic, Doniel Miller, Leah Nussbaum, Bruchi Simon, Camilla Sabarano, Shira Spitzer, Tahala Tool, Atara Tool, Tamar Younger. Okay, I hope that's everyone.